So it's nice winning in a blowout in the NBA. Your star players get some extra rest, your role players get a few more minutes, and depending if you're the home or the away team, the fans might walk away with some free tacos as well. But every now and then, the losing team will pull off a miraculous comeback, and we'll remember it for a long time. And so we're going to talk about a few of them here. The NBA's best comebacks since the 2010 season. And our first one takes place in the 2015 Western Conference first round series. The Golden State Warriors, who came out of nowhere to win over 60 games, and as we know, winning an NBA championship, against the young New Orleans Pelicans, who had to fight and claw their way into the postseason in the very last game of the year. And the first two games of the series went how you would expect. Golden State was clearly the better team, securing a 2-0 series advantage, although Anthony Davis was balling and then some in the first two games. And in the first quarter of Game 3, which is where our story really begins, he was doing the same, continuing what he was doing in Golden State, carrying the Pelicans. Unfortunately for him, Golden State can hit any shot once they walk into the building. But still, the home crowd of New Orleans was fueling the Pelicans, and into the second quarter, a few unlikely heroes showed up, one of which, the flat top of Norris Cole, hitting a top-of-the-key three-pointer, and then on the other end, Golden State went cold just long enough for another unlikely guy, Ryan Anderson, to hit a couple of transition three-pointers. And before you know it, in the third quarter, the Pelicans would take a 20-point lead on the Golden State Warriors. And it was 17 points with about 6 minutes left. Golden State still having a lid on top of the basket. And it seemed that this series was going to go to Game 4, with the Pelicans having a chance to tie it up at 2-2. But the Golden State Warriors had a few other things in mind as they would break the hearts of the Pelicans fans. It started with a simple Steph Curry step-back long two-pointer, and then a Klay Thompson drive into the middle followed by a turnaround jumper. And then all those shots that were dropping for the Pels early on, they stopped going in. And then MVP Steph Curry said, "All right, guys, I got it from here." It started with a deep double-clutch three-pointer with about 13 seconds left to get them within breathing distance. And then one of the stupidest shots ever, as the guy was double-teamed in the corner, could barely see the basket, for a soul-crushing three-pointer that would force the game into overtime. As the MVP said, "Oh, hold on, Pelicans fans, y'all shouldn't be cheering just yet." And then in overtime, all it took was Harrison Barnes being left a little too open, a Draymond Green pick and roll inside, Golden State secures a 3-0 lead, and any chance of New Orleans pulling off an epic upset, well, that's out the window. Now, we might as well keep it in 2015 for this one. Here, we're going to be talking about the Houston Rockets, led by number 2 in MVP voting, James Harden, as well as a slew of players who could defend as well as stretch from outside. And they'd be going up against the Los Angeles Clippers in the second round. And the good old Clippers just came off of beating the San Antonio Spurs in 7 games, so people thought that they were ready to take the next step, and the Rockets wouldn't be much of a contest. And the Clippers looked like the better team throughout the majority of the series, but even then, it was a Game 6 in Los Angeles. Not many people gave Houston much of a chance, and while the Rockets were able to stand toe-to-toe with them for the majority of the game, late third quarter, it started with a J.J. Redick three-pointer on the right-hand side. The Clippers' defense also locked in and stopped Houston from countering them on the other end. Blake Griffin was scoring down low, and they had no chances of stopping him. And it was a 12-point game with only 7.5 minutes left. And the crazy thing was, James Harden was not on the floor for the Houston Rockets. And it started with Corey Brewer, his energy on both sides, defending the perimeter as well as attacking the rim like a crazy person, got the momentum moving in Houston's favor, and then of all people, Josh frickin' Smith became Ray Allen for like 7 minutes as that guy hit multiple three-pointers that really weren't the best shots. He also had a coast-to-coast basket as well, as they didn't stop him in transition. And on the other end, the Clippers were just starstruck. They were just playing hot potato. They didn't know what to do. Everybody was scared. And so after Blake Griffin missed himself a late inside shot, it was obvious. The Clippers just collapsed against the Rockets without James Harden on the floor. and we know that those Rockets would go on to lose to the Warriors in the conference finals. Maybe the Clippers would have been a different story. Now we're going to be fast forwarding one season. This one just happened a couple of months ago, so it's fresh in your mind. The Oklahoma City Thunder against, once again, the Golden State Warriors. And after winning 73 games, seemed the Warriors were primed to just run through the postseason. OKC kicked their ass the majority of the series, to put it bluntly. But Golden State still managed to force a Game 6. And in the first quarter of that Game 6, Klay Thompson hit himself a couple of threes, and the seed was already planted. But between the third and fourth quarters, a Russell Westbrook drive, as well as Kevin Durant just doing whatever the hell he wanted to do against the Warriors defense, led to OKC having an 8-point lead, and Golden State was running out of time pretty damn quickly. But then Klay Thompson happened. One of the greatest shooting performances you'll ever see. He had a three-pointer that made no sense from a handoff from Andrew Bogut. He had a three-pointer on the right elbow in transition because they couldn't lock him up on a fast break. And the stupidest of all, a Hail Mary from the top of the key nearly touching the OKC logo that went right through the net. OKC also couldn't handle the Golden State defense, led by Draymond Green, of course. And it didn't help that OKC went to their patented one-on-one late-game isolation offense that doesn't always work. And then a Steph Curry isolation, which led to a crazy flying layup, was the last thing that Kevin Durant needed to say, maybe I should go join these guys, and then everybody in the comment section will hate me. And then Golden State would go on to the NBA Finals before they lose to LeBron James. And speaking of LeBron James, save the best one for last. 2011 NBA Finals. The Big Three of Miami ran through the Eastern Conference, shout out to Derrick Rose and the Chicago Bulls, and it seemed like they were the favorites over the Dallas Mavericks, and they already won Game 1. But that Mavericks team was something. They had Dirk Nowitzki at his all-time high, one of the best offensive performances of a postseason ever. But they also had Tyson Chandler, one of the best, if not the best, defensive big man in the league at that time, Sean Marion, who was still very good on that end of the floor, as well as a lot of veteran shooters who were not afraid of taking and making the big shot. Jason Kidd's created, he's going to look a little weird. But still, when Miami walked into the building for Game 2, they felt that they were going to take a commanding lead of the series. It was a back-and-forth affair for the majority of the game, as there was no way that Dallas was just going to lay down and let this thing happen. But then a thunderous LeBron James dunk, late third quarter, on top of a crazy Dwayne Wade corner three-pointer, gave Miami a 15-point lead with about 7 minutes left. Heat fans, well, they probably left the building because that's what they do at this point. But the Dallas Mavericks, a tough team, effective on both sides of the floor, with a power forward who can't miss, they had a chance. It started with a Jason Terry 15-footer, just the thing they needed to get them going in the right direction. And then the defense, led by Rick Carlisle and Tyson Chandler. Anything Miami wanted to do, Dallas saw it coming. They were ready for the penetration inside. They stopped him at the rim. Miami was constantly forced to pass it back out into the perimeter. And that was the real difference. Miami could not get comfortable against that zone defense, which would plague them for the rest of the series. And then on the other end, the fear of a Dirk Nowitzki post-up led to open three-pointers, and then a late fast break with not much time left to go tied the game up. And then after LeBron James got himself a nice three-point brick, all it took was Dirk Nowitzki with a nice little post drive on Chris Bosh, which looks really awkward in 2K, to give the Mavericks a small lead with about 5 seconds left. And that was the difference, as they would complete the comeback in Game 2. And then, as we know, that series, they would go on to hit 1 million three-pointers, and then some against Miami, as well as confuse the hell out of LeBron James. And then Skip Bayless would have a field day because LeBron lost, although then the guy went on to win a bunch more championships, and now Skip has no more ammo. Anyway, that's the video. I'm done.